Good evening and welcome to tonight's edition of The Probe. Well, the month of October is special for many obvious reasons, including Breast Cancer Awareness, International Day of the Girl Child, we have World Food Day and many more, all in the month of October. But tonight we shall zoom our lenses on cyber fraud because the National Cybersecurity Awareness Month is this month, that's October. In Ghana, internet penetration we know has seen remarkable growth, surging from 2.31 million users in 2012 alone to 17 million users in 2022. While in the first half of 2023, cyber fraud activities led to direct financial losses of $4.32 million US, translates into 49.5 million Ghana cedis in Ghana. While the reported cyber fraud activities represent only a fraction of the cases brought to the attention of government organizations, we are told that 41,285 contacts from members of the public was received by the CSA between October 2019 and July 2023, all complaining about cybercrime and other related activities. Guess what? Identity theft, online extortion, romance fraud, and shopping fraud accounted for 41% of the total fraud cases. Well, there are all kinds of names for these activities. Once we put it out there, I had all kinds of names, apart from the Sakawas and the others that we know. There are a lot more that people describe it when it comes to the cyber fraud. But our focus tonight is on how to get ahead of these fraudsters. My guest tonight is the lead National Computer Emergency Response Team at the Cyber Security Authority, Stephen Kujoseshi. Stephen, welcome. I hope you're ready for this discussion. Of course, because there are a lot of questions that have come in. And once we put it out, we are live on JoyNews, we are live on Joy 99.7 FM and affiliates across the country. MyJoyOnline.com and all our social media platforms. On DSTV, we're on channel 421, on GoTV, it's 125. I am Emefa Apawu, and this is The Probe. Please do stay with us. A quick turnaround, then we get talking. You're welcome back to The Probe here on Joy News. We're also on Joy 99.7 FM together with affiliates dotted across Ghana's 16 regions. MyJoyOnline.com and all our social media platforms. All you have to do is to send us a message with a hashtag The Probe. Tonight we are focusing on cyber security and it is the awareness month, and we're starting October with cyber security awareness. And Stephen Kujoseshi, like I told you, is my guest tonight here on The Probe. I'm pretty excited about this discussion because I get to know all about it. Welcome once again.
Thank you.
Okay, well, let's talk about the awareness month itself. I know that since 2017, your authority has been leading this particular awareness month. Really, what does it entail?
Right, thank you, Mefa. So the Cybersecurity Awareness Month is one of our flagship programs, and basically it's a month where we focus on all things awareness around cybersecurity. So if you look at our history, how we've evolved to where we are, we identified the capacity of our citizens to recognize cybersecurity threats as a weakness. So in 2018, we completed a survey with the University of Oxford and the World Bank, which basically did an assessment of our entire ecosystem. We spoke to private sector, public sector, looked at, did general interviews, and basically identified that Ghanaians we trust a lot, and therefore our ability to respond to cybersecurity threats was a bit low. So they put it down as an improvement point. So based on that, in 2018, we launched a strategy around awareness. So we identified four pillars. We talked about government, businesses, children, and then there's one more, there's a fourth one. Okay. So around those elements, in October, we try to focus on all these. We have several kinds of programs, awareness creation programs, there are workshops and the like. So that's what October is about. Tomorrow, we launch for 2023. We're going to have distinguished ministers, with our sector minister, Ministry of Communications and Digitalization will be there. Minister of Information, Minister of National Security, as well as some distinguished external guests will be there to kick it all off. The whole month is busy.
Oh, it's a whole month.
Yes, every week there's something happening across different sectors. We'll be touching government, we'll be touching private sector, we'll be dealing with children, and all that.
Well, but children, I'm very interested, at least government, business, children. I see that there's a lot of questions around government and businesses, at least individuals. But children, really, how is it looking like? Okay,
so children are an important part of our strategy as a cybersecurity authority. In fact, if you look at the Cybersecurity Act 1038 of 2020, there's a whole section that speaks to protecting children online in terms of sharing of indecent images or intimate images of children and the like, and there are very stiff penalties around it. In the authority, we have a whole division that's devoted to what we call child online protection. So they do work around the awareness creation, going to schools to engage them, to educate them on cybersecurity best practice, what they should do, what they should not do. They also interact with, so when there are cases that are reported to the authority through our point of contact, they work to resolve those cases. They need to investigate if there are prosecutions required. They champion it with the necessary evidence. So it's really
Are we having more and more children falling prey to this cybersecurity fraud and activities over the period, you would say?
Well, you hear it now and then. We probably see more of the other types, but it comes. We've seen a lot of instances where in schools, unfortunately, maybe a young lady gets convinced by someone who she thinks she likes. The person takes photos of her, she's a minor, then the next thing you know, they're either sharing it with other people or they've posted it somewhere. We've seen some instances of such cases, and each time we are deeply involved in trying to resolve such.
Okay. Well, but what's the data looking like over the period when it comes to cybersecurity fraud in Ghana?
Okay. So we just ended a quarter, so I can look back a year from quarter 3 all the way 1 year back. We've had about 14,000 engagements. So our point of contact, let me talk about that before I move on. So our point of contact is a mechanism that is mandated by our act that allows us to interact with the public, basically offer them a service in terms of reporting cybercrime. So we offer a voice line, 292, SMS, also 292, a WhatsApp line, 050-160-3111, an email address, report@csa.gov.gh. These channels are available for anyone in the public to report issues. Now, when those reports come, we have a team that responds to it. 24/7, we are there. We'll pick your call, we'll respond.
Okay.
Now, from those interactions, in the past year, 14,000 cases have 14,000 calls have come in. Out of that, around 1,200 of them are actual incidents. So that means something has actually happened that we need to look into. So that's about 9%. The rest turn out to be what we call advisories. So you might call us and say, well, I see this so-and-so link, it says this, should I click it or not? We'll take your info, we'll take the link, we'll analyze it and come back and tell you, okay, Emefa, please stay away from this.
Well, there was one link, for instance, that was going around about getting free BA tickets and all that. I don't know if that was also brought to your attention. Like, when we see such links, what are we supposed to do with it?
So there are a few things you can do. If you are that savvy, there are links, there are services online that you can use to check whether that link is malicious or not. So there's one offered by Google called Virus Total. So you can take a link, go and paste it in the form there. They have a series of tests to run against it and then tell you, okay, Emefa, this is malicious, don't continue. But if you're not sure, just call us. We'll do the work for you and give you an answer.
Okay. Well, one key one, I'm sure you're not new to this, Momo fraud in particular. There are concerns about whether the cybersecurity authority is very much alive to the increasing cases of Momo fraud and what exactly the authority is doing about it.
Okay. So Momo fraud, so let's say it's a multifaceted problem, but the key challenges around us as the users of the service. It's a system. It's helping our digital growth for facilitating payments and stuff like this. But then what you've got now are people who are in the system and they try to manipulate you to release your PIN or authorize payments that you did not actually go for. So we tend to, as an authority, we tend to focus on the education part. Because the systems have been designed, there's procedures for how you do transactions. You must protect your PIN. Don't give your PIN to people. But you find that someone will can call an individual, give them some storyline. Somehow they get lost in the story and they hand over the PIN. And then the person is gone. Or in some cases, some of the service providers, they can send you a prompt for you to accept by entering your PIN. Right? Yeah. So they call the people, give them some storyline. Oh, we are authorizing this, or just check this, and then please enter your PIN. We are fixing this problem, something like this. They give you a story, and then you release your PIN. So there's the human side of it, and we call it social engineering. So basically, they are playing on your helpfulness, or you want to help somebody out, and then they trick you. So it's not so much that it's a system issue, but it's more around how we are using it as users. But as an authority, we work with the service providers a lot, where we see there are any system or technical issues, they look into it. But we need to be focusing on ourselves as the users.
But as an authority, you're not clothed with any powers to be able to make sure that these telcos and anyone that falls victim to this or whatever it is that can be done to prevent it in the first place, there's nothing like that?
Well, we actually have some control in the sense that that service area, because so critical to digital, falls under what we call critical information infrastructure. Okay. So that big term, or we call it CIF for short, basically just means that there are infrastructure within our ecosystem that are deemed critical to the functioning of the country. So either if there's an outage to those systems, there might be a national security issue, or it might impact socio-economic status of the country. So the MOMO system or the ICT infrastructure falls under one of those categories. So we have a team that's focused on protection of those infrastructure. So they do that by issuing directives, conducting audits, and checking for compliance to best practices. So if you say you're offering a MOMO service, okay, there are best practices for building such a system. There are best practices for, let's say, validating your users. We look into all that together with people like the NCA that look directly after the sector. So we do have some control.
Well, we have a number of audience questions that we'll be getting into. I see that Yao was whispering about us going into the audience questions, but there's this one that I'm hoping that we could get some clarity to before we get into the questions. The issue about the new initiative to register, license and accredit cybersecurity service providers. What is it really meant to achieve? All
right. So we've just been talking about how important communication infrastructure is to us, or other critical infrastructure. Now, cybersecurity is important in that space because if you have a service provider that's doing some work in that space, they're touching very sensitive systems. A lot of the work they are going to do is very intrusive. So let's say you hire someone to come and look at your network and put in certain infrastructure to protect it. Necessarily, he must get into your network, know where all your devices are connected, and then now recommend a solution. Now imagine that person is not very principled. He comes and he knows that, oh, Joy FM, they have these type of equipment. This is the version, it's from this vendor. And then he goes back to go and check, okay, this is a weakness here, this is a weakness, and the next time you wake up, your network is down. So what we are trying to do there, the law act tells us that we need to make sure we are licensing the service provider in that space to make sure that they are using best practice standards. We are finding out, we are doing background checks. So if company X says, I'm a cyber security service provider, we know who the owners are, we know their registration status, they've complied with things like data protection, their engineers or their staff are accredited professionals, background check has been done, so that you are essentially sanitizing the space, you know who is operating there. Similar thing applies to the professionals themselves. So even if I work for myself, but I do this kind of cybersecurity stuff, I need to be accredited. That accreditation also goes through a rigorous process. We check your credentials. If you say you can do something like what we call vulnerability assessment. So I want to check what weaknesses you have in your network. I should go to validate that you actually have the skills to do the right job. You have the right certifications. You are going to follow the right standards. And when you do it, you're also protecting information. You not finish the work at Joy FM and go and sell it to someone in Russia next week. So that's the purpose behind that whole exercise.
But have we had them, at least, those service providers complying?
Oh, yes.
We've had a number of them registering so far.
We've got a number going. We're actually in the process of issuing the accreditation. Right now it's provisional, but after a certain period, grace period, they'll have the full licensing or the full accreditation, depending on which category they are in.
Okay, let's get into the first batch of questions now. Let's not leave our audience out. Yeah, if you're ready, let's go. So we have the first one from Abna. How does the CSA go about its work in identifying cybersecurity trends? He says. Xavier says, what are the top incidents that the point of contact handles? Hashmin says, what are the top prevalent forms of cyber fraud? Teria says, how can people identify that they are about to fall victim to the more prevalent forms of cyber fraud and how they can respond to them? Okay, so that's the first batch. Would now take some responses, Mr. Seshi, on this. So you were talking about point of contacts earlier. So Xavier wants to know what the top incidents are that they've handled, and then maybe we can add it to Abna's question, how the CSA goes about its work in identifying cybersecurity trends.
All right. So it starts with the POC. So like I mentioned earlier, it's mandated by the Act, and it's run by a team called the Computer Emergency Response Team, which I lead. So, the Act tells us or mandates that we should provide a means for the public to be able to report incidents to us. Yep. So those channels I mentioned, the phone, SMS, both of them are 292. If you call 292 from any network, you will go 292. Yes. Or you can WhatsApp us on 050-160-3111, or you send an email to report@csa.gov.gh. So those channels are like, let's think of it like funnels to us. So once people call us, we take down very detailed information about each case that they're reporting. So as the period goes on, then we've been building a database of cases, how the malicious actors are operating, or what we like to call modus operandi. So that's how we get the data we are about to share.
Also the top incidents so far.
So I have them categorized in 5, right? So these 5 account for about 90% of all the cases we record. So top of that list is online fraud. Online fraud has subcategories. So you can talk about shopping scams, job scams, romance scams, investment fraud, advance fee fraud. These are all different types. If you want, we can break them down a bit.
Yes, let's talk about it a bit more.
So online shopping scams are, the commonest example is you see something on Instagram, tells you I'm selling, my favorite is Crocs. We are selling Crocs. They give you a very nice looking price. So let's say it's 300 cedis. Put a number there for you to pay, and then they tell you, oh, when you pay, we'll deliver. So you send them the 300 cedis, and then after 1-2 hours, you want your Crocs. It hasn't arrived. When you try to call the number back,
number's dead.
Your 300 cedis is gone.
So in a case like this, if you see the Crocs, beautiful Crocs you want to buy, what then do you have to do before you start the payment process?
Right. So a few things you can do. So because it's online, you can't see who is behind it. You have to do what we call due diligence, right? Because typically if it was a physical shop, you can walk, pick
and pay.
Now the burden is now on you, the buyer, to then be sure that that outlet is genuine. So some of the things we recommend you can do is you can pick the number they've got there, you call, verify where they are, verify physical location, and be sure you can actually, even if possible, check out that physical location actually exists.
Now most of them don't have physical locations. Most of these online shops, they are just online shops. No physical
online.
Yes.
Like the thing is, okay, assuming we bought a Crocs and it is torn, how would you return it? So let's say a reputable online shop would say, okay, well, I don't have a display shop, but if you need to interact with me, come to this address. So that's what you're looking for, right? The other things you can also do is on most of these online portals, you might see reviews. Other users that have used that particular portal. Read through and see. Are people complaining that they didn't get the items? When you see something like that, it becomes a warning flag to use, a red flag that potentially this shop you're looking at may not be notified. Those are some of the simple things you can do too.
Okay. So you've talked about shopping, online shopping, where we have top incidents. Which other ones were we going to talk about?
Job scams.
Okay.
You know, a lot of our colleagues or brothers, cousins, some are out of school, are looking for jobs. So you have people that will go around and craft something. Typically, they would impersonate someone important. It could be a government official, it could be an agency. So, there are these jobs, please apply. But the catch usually is they'll tell you, pay us X amount to give you protocol attention or to get the form. But you pay and that's it, they are gone. So they play on your vulnerability that you need a job, they take money off you and then they run off. Advanced fee fraud comes in where people would say, okay, we need to deliver, for example, we are delivering something to you, but you need to pay us first for it to be delivered. So it's okay. So there's one scenario which has happened a few times. So someone makes a friend online, seems to be going well, then the person says, oh, I have some iPhones I want to send to you, but there are a lot, I can give you some to sell. So I'll package it and send it to you in Ghana. So, okay, then a few days later, so yeah, I've sent 10 iPhones. They've arrived at, let's say, DHL. So please check it out. So when you go to DHL and you want to go, they say, the package you send, there's money inside. There's not supposed to be money inside because apparently you cannot put money in such packages. So they pin you and say, actually, you need to pay some money so that is not taken against you. So they take money from you for that. They also tell you, in terms of the delivery, you need to pay this and that as well. So they just find ways to pick money from you, but whatever you are looking for, you actually never get it.
These are very intelligent people.
Yeah.
Are they always a step ahead of us, or we have them under control, you would say?
Well, it's up to us as the users.
Okay.
If they engage you and you allow them, you are likely to fall victim. So some of these tips we are giving us is for you to be aware, pay attention when someone calls you, especially people you don't know, people you just met online. You don't know the person physically. You have to be careful when they are giving you stories about delivering you something or sending you this or help me to pay for this or that. You have to be really careful.
Interesting. Well, let's talk about the top prevalent forms of cyber fraud. I think that's what we've been touching on as well, Hashmin. And then how can people identify that they're about to fall victim to the more prevalent forms of cyber fraud? I think you've been speaking about it. And then regarding businesses, what are some of the cyber issues businesses experience and how they can handle them? I think that's in the second batch. That's always one answer. Maybe we should take more from the second batch, then we can take responses. So we go on to the next one. Where do I go or who do I talk to if I fall victim to cyber fraud? Asay is asking, and why do we wait till October to educate the public on cyber fraud? Jennifer is asking, and Lily says, what are the current top cybersecurity threats or trends that individuals and organizations should be aware of? I think we've been giving you some. Kekeli says, how can individuals protect themselves from common cyber threats like phishing and ransomware attacks?
Which one shall
So we can start with Ozwan Sesson regarding businesses. What are some of the cyber issues businesses experience and how they can handle them?
So businesses are not immune. I think one of the common ones we are seeing now is around impersonation. So for example, Emefa has a fashion design shop. You've opened, you have your shop and then you put an online segment on Instagram so people can find you. And next thing you know, someone has also, let's say it's called Emefa Designs. A few months later, you see someone else has created Emefa Designs. Sometimes they even copy the same picture,
same logo,
everything put in there, and they change the number. So when someone searches for Emefa Designs, there's something we call search engine optimization. So basically, you're able to design your site in such a way that when you Google or you search for it, it comes to the top. So these guys are smart enough to manipulate those algorithms, and they have to be on top of yours. So your end user can't tell. So they call that number. So yeah, I want to order a dress. So nicely answer, issue an invoice. When the person pays, they are gone. Then your name is in disrepute because they think you have scammed them. But actually somebody has copied your brand and is impersonating you. So that's one common thing we see. And how to deal with it is basically you need to monitor your presence online. So long as you have presence online for your business, you need to be monitoring it. You need to intentionally check. Is someone using my name? Someone using my logo? If it's not that person, then you need to take action. And if you see it on a site like Facebook or Instagram, there are channels for reporting it. If you're not sure what to do, you can engage us. We can give you the guidance.
And that takes us to Aseye's question about where to go and who to talk to if you feel that you're falling victim to cyber fraud.
Our POC contacts, 292, the WhatsApp line 050-160-3111, or email report@CSA.
In the event that maybe they took my phone at the time and I'm not able to reach you via WhatsApp,
have someone and ask someone else to call on your behalf, and we'll speak to you.
What will happen? What would be the process that I'll go through once I call?
So typically, we'll take your name, your details, where are you? Then we take specifics about the case. When did it happen? What exactly happened? Who did you engage with? If you have evidence, perfect. Hopefully you have not lost the phone. So you might want to take evidence of the conversations you've had, screenshots of any evidence you might have of whatever you've experienced. Then we analyze it. If we find, once we put that together, we have in-house what we call a law enforcement liaison unit, we like to call them. So these guys are investigators. So once we determine it's a case that needs to be investigated, this set of evidence will go to them to analyze it, look at it, and then where necessary, they maybe engage the external bodies that have arrest powers, like the police or CID, EOCO, or these people. Work with them, and then eventually you might get redress. I need to caution, though, that we can't chase every 100 CD case, for example, just to set expectations. But then that's how the process typically works.
Have we had any arrests over the period through these reports and investigations that has been done by the authorities?
Yes, I can point to a major one. In July, I'm sure you'd have seen the release where we arrested about 400 suspects that were involved in what we call cyberbullying. So these guys were running a scheme around loan applications. So when you go to Play Store, they advertise the loan. So, okay, install this application, will give you small loans. So I need 300, I need 1,000 CDs. All looking fine and good. But when you are registering, they take a lot of your personal details. They take your Ghana card, they've taken all your personal information. But then they tell you, okay, fine, you can pay this back in less than a month or 3 months. But usually in 7 days, someone calls you and tells you, Emefa, you owe us, and then all of a sudden the interest is very high. So let's say you borrowed 200 CDs. Call it Emefa. You owe us, let's say 350 CDs. You need to pay up in 7 days, or we are going to plaster your face on social media as a thief. You've stolen our money. So they were going around threatening. So many people fell victim. We recorded well over 270 such reports to us. So what then kicked in was, because if you're doing anything financial, it has to do with the BOG, right? Yeah. BOG released a letter that said, look, we have not licensed anybody to do this. So between us, BOG and EOCO, and then even the NCA, we formed a task force. And then that culminated in that arrest, 400 suspects, and he even had about, if I'm not mistaken, there were a handful of foreigners that were also behind it. So that's a clear instance of us tackling cyber crime and being successful at it.
I know some people, at least some in the newsroom, I won't expose them, but it appears that they always get those kind of messages, at least the ones that you describe as a phishing, do this and you win this, send to 100 people or send to these people, and then you get it. How does people like that become like targets? How is it that you just be there and you get those messages and you are asked to share? Sometimes even emails now, you get it. What do you do before you get it? Is it that there are certain sites that you visit? What exactly makes you susceptible to these people? Like,
well, there are a number of factors. Like, definitely one of the things is the sites you visit. And if you visit sites that are not so reputable and you are leaving your personal information or personal details there, that's how come some of these messages may come through. Okay. So you definitely need to be careful the kind of sites you visit. Popular thing is a lot of people are into betting and stuff like this. The sad truth is not all those betting companies are run by reputable companies. Okay. So you are one of those, and they happen to be feeding your data to their brothers that are running rackets.
They say they are not betting, they are investing.
Investments.
Yes, they say
so you need to be careful who your investment broker is.
Okay.
So that's one thing. And some of these things, when they come on your phone, they are offers, and so fill this form out, fill this form out. Actually, you're actually handing them your data.
Information.
This loan app thing I spoke about, for instance, for the most part, what they were doing, they're actually sucking data off even the handsets that were there. So what would happen is they actually would be able to pull up all the contacts on your phone and send messages to them. That's how they even try to shame you. And then they can follow up and then target those people because they have their numbers. They can send them such strange messages as well. If you are unfortunate enough to select, then you are part of the pool. They'll keep.
Because I'm one of those who always wonder, for Momo fraud, for instance, you have them call you randomly and you wonder how they got your number. And it's like every time you load up money or this money that comes on your phone, that's when you start getting these calls. Is there a way they know? How are you protecting us as consumers, you'd say?
Well, the protection mechanisms technically can only work to a limit.
Okay.
Unfortunately, you might have what we call insider threats. So people that may be part of the ecosystem for the top-ups that are not so reputable. So maybe you bought your last credit at your corner shop. You may have taken your number. Actually works with these people. So they hand your number over. So the next time, once you top up, they know. That's one. So what we can, we always come back to the bit about your due diligence and being alert. You, the user, must be the one in control. Technical controls only work to a certain point. Technology in itself is not evil, but it's the users that are making it evil. So you have to be alert.
So that's for mobile money, at least. If you're using mobile money, you have to be alert. But Jennifer wonders why we wait till October to educate the public on cyber fraud. I guess it's not just October, is it?
October. Actually, one of the key things we do with the data we gather at the POC is actually release alerts. So if you go to our website and if you monitor our social media channels, you see alerts. At the minimum, there'll be one a month. And how do we do that? We analyze the cases we've got for the period and we say, okay, well, this month, it is impersonation of government figures. We'll write you a short alert, usually one pager. It will describe what the issue is, to tell you how the fraud or whatever it is, or the issue is perpetrated, and then we'll give you recommendations at the end. Do that. So if you go to our site, you see all of them. So it's not only October. October just happens to be when we want to put the limelight on cybersecurity
and that's why you're always asking me to ask you, why October? Why is the awareness in October in particular?
I think it's an international convention that was selected around the world. We're not the only ones celebrating it. There are several countries also doing the same. So we sort of, once we decided we want to make awareness part of our strategy, we also started.
Okay. So I'm sure you touched on Lily's question, the current top cybersecurity threats or trends. We've been talking about online fraud. We'll talk about pornography and then also the cyberbullying that you've been talking about. But Kekeli was also asking how individuals can protect themselves. You've been talking about it from phishing and ransomware. But we'll go into the next March. I see John's question. What are some of the best practices for securing personal devices and accounts against cyber threats? That's John's question. Solomon says, what steps can organizations take to strengthen their cybersecurity posture and protect sensitive data? And that's Solomon's question. And then we have one from Xavier. How important is cybersecurity awareness training for employees within an organization? Chocho says, what are the key elements of a strong cybersecurity policy for businesses and individuals alike? And then the last one for this batch, Kweku says, how can individuals and businesses stay updated on the latest cybersecurity news and developments? Practices, securing personal devices and accounts against cyber threats.
All right. So let's start with the simple ones, your passwords. So you might be surprised in this day and age, people still use password as their password. So you want to start
maybe they just capitalize the P and then
maybe change one at. But we have very advanced computers now. They can crack simple passwords in seconds, in minutes. So starting from there is to make sure you're setting fairly long passwords, nothing less than 12 characters at least. Mixture of uppercase characters, numbers, special characters.
And I'll forget.
Well, there are tools to help you. We have what we call password managers. So a password manager is like, you can think of it as your wallet or your purse with a padlock on it. So anytime you create a password, you store it in there. And that wallet or manager.
That can be cracked.
You should have one master password. You need to remember just that one. So you can sit down and craft one very good password and use that to manage your password manager. But anything else, any other
password
service?
manager, is it an app or
It's an
something
app,
like that?
Apps. You can get it on your phone, you can get it on your browser, or as a separate app on your laptop. So with that, any site you need to create, whether it's your Gmail or your Instagram account, when you create any account, you make sure you store the credentials in that password manager. Make sure that one, just maintain.
Not write it in your diary.
Don't.
The diary you have, people just write.
Don't stick it to your,
your
screen or under your...
But how about people like Raymond Aqua who uses one password for everything?
It's a huge risk. It's a huge risk. So assuming one of the sites you are using is compromised, we have what we call password spraying. The criminals, well, we've compromised, let's say, xyz.com. We've stolen all the user data there. Okay, well, we saw Raymond Aqua in there. This is his password. Now they'll throw it at any other service that is out there. They'll take the username and password and throw it out there. So God forbid they hit some service where you have used that, they're in. So if it's your email, they're in. If it's your
bank app and everything,
they're in. So it's not advisable. We understand that it's difficult to remember several passwords. That's where the password manager would help you. In fact, the password manager, most of them would have the password generation feature. They'll be able to generate complex passwords for you. And because you don't need to remember, it's fine. You copy it, you paste, your account is created, it is stored there, you are done. You don't need to remember X, Y, Z, funny characters. The password manager is doing that for you.
Well, that's interesting. But the steps organizations can take to strengthen their cybersecurity posture and protect sensitive data is what Solomon is also asking. I'm sure you've been touching on it a bit.
I should add a few more on the device protection.
Okay.
So aside the passwords, also it's not all of us protect our devices as well as we do our laptops. Let me ask, do you have antivirus on your phone? Don't.
On my phone? Do I need antivirus on my phone? Why?
You surf on it, right?
Yes.
Oh. How different is it from the browser in your?
Because this is a... Okay, that's interesting. No, I've never thought about it. So you need antivirus on your phone. It's an iPhone. I thought iPhone, nothing can happen to it.
Everything is breakable. If the breach, most of your iPhones are linked to your online accounts, right? So imagine you download something that breaches your phone. You'll have access to every account, everything you do online. So you should consider it. So most of us, we should, and they are not that expensive. I like to copy one of the examples my boss uses. You ask the ladies, how much did you spend on your hair?
Thankfully, I don't spend anything.
You don't spend anything. You are natural.
Yes, I'm free.
People take you do your braids, right? Certainly in the 200s to 300s at a go, right? In a year, you can spend barely 50 cedis on antivirus. 50
cedis. Oh, I thought it was more expensive than that. Okay.
You have full protection to scan anything, to even warn you if you are getting on a site that is malicious. So I think that's a key thing as users we need to adopt to protect our devices. Other basic hygiene things is definitely be careful what sites you are visiting. Right? If you are dabbling in malicious sites, granted you, so you have to watch your habits online. That's one way to protect your devices as well. The software on the devices. So they send updates from time to time. Some of us see that, this thing is going to chew my data.
Yes.
Why they send those updates are because they've discovered that, this piece of software, there's a vulnerability. Somebody can use it to compromise your device. So they've sent an update. So you reject it. It's like leaving your door and the key is not, you've left the key inside. So when they can open the car. So updates are crucial for your operating systems, for the applications that you install. I'm sure you might wake up some days and you see that they'll line up 15 applications. Yes. Update all of them. The same philosophy. That's data, but it's your safety. So let's not be cancelling them. They are crucial, and the same translates to our devices, laptops, and so from there I can transition to the question around the office. So the devices we are using in the office, need to be kept up to date. So if your staff are using machines that are not running antivirus, you're asking for trouble. If you are using online instanced software, those of us that like to go and pick pirated copies of Office and be using, you're asking for trouble.
Yeah.
So those are things. So if in an organization as well, you may have public-facing services. You may have a website. You may have other web applications that your customers use. The underlying infrastructure, the service operating system, whatever software you're using to offer the service, you need to make sure they're all up to date. It's the same philosophy. If there's a vulnerability in there, you've not dealt with it, you're exposed. Okay. So as an organization, you need to have policies, procedures for doing this. So you might need to have a policy that says, well, every week we are running a check. Your vendor would probably be releasing patches and updates. You need to have a process that says, well, okay, maybe every last Thursday of the month, I am making sure that all the patches I need to install have been done. I mean, we understand that doing that, there's likely to be downtime. That's why people fear. They won't do, to disrupt my service, my website will go down. But you need to be able to plan it out. Maybe you need to do it at 3 a.m. when Emefa is asleep. This is not. So those are best practices you can use.
Well, I must say that Xavier's question, the cybersecurity awareness training for employees within an organization, they do it a lot here at Multimedia. Sometimes you don't want to join the Zoom when they're doing the training and all that, but I think you need to highlight why it's important that these awareness training is done by organizations. So
earlier I mentioned that technology in itself is not really evil, it's the users that are behind it.
Yeah.
Now in any system, usually we'll talk about people, processes, and the technology, right? So let's say your technology is fine. Granted, your processes are fine. But if your people are doing the wrong things, the whole set is useless. Something will go wrong, something bad will happen. So the thing about human beings is, if you tell them 1, 2 weeks later they forgot. So you need to keep reminding them. Aside that, the IT space evolves very quickly.
Exactly.
There are new services, there are new features, there are new applications. And it's not all the time you can really understand whether this is good to do or this is not good to do. So you need to refresh, okay, what's new out there that potentially could harm my users or harm my staff? And you use these sessions to do that. That's why it's important. Keep hammering home the best practices. We talk about passwords. We've been talking about passwords for years, but people are still making the same mistakes.
Yes.
Update your antivirus. It sounds very nice in the ears, but people don't do it. So you have to keep doing it. Sometimes you may have to in organizations, you may even have to run like tests. So let's take the phishing. We mentioned it. So phishing, someone sends you an email pretending to be someone else. They are usually malicious links. You click on it, you get infected with something.
Whole system.
Done. Okay. How would someone recognize a phishing email? You have to show them some characteristics to look for.
What should I look for?
Okay. So some of the simple ones is you need to. So someone says, I'm sending a mail from Microsoft. Check the spelling of the Microsoft, the domain. Maybe they left out an O or they made a double T.
Okay.
So, but then in the title, the message title, they say this is an email from Microsoft. You need to check the email. Sometimes they can even manage to mask the actual email address. So you need to go and put your cursor there and see what actually comes out. You might find it is actually some gibberish at some site in China or North Korea, right? So how would people know this if you don't run those? So that's when you can do. So in some organizations, what you take it a step further. After doing the training, next time is a simulation. We'll send a dummy email and see how many people click it. So then you test, so people will know that, I need to be alert. It's not let's join the thing. We join it and then we go and sit somewhere and not listen. We'll test it.
Okay.
Some organizations, if they find that you actually not pay attention, it can be an issue. So you need to make sure people pay attention.
Yeah. Well, I think Chocho's question should have been answered as the key element of a strong cybersecurity policy for businesses and individuals alike. You want to add more because I think you basically touched on it. And then Kweku also says, how can individuals and businesses stay updated on the latest cybersecurity news and developments?
Okay. For sure, you can keep an eye on our website and the social media handles, because we'll be releasing alerts and advisories. We even release technical advisories. So for sometimes when we see something that is quite urgent in terms of what might impact businesses. So we know people use web servers, they use maybe Office. Sometimes we pick up from our threat intelligence activities that, oh, this specific vulnerability now exists. And you need to patch it now. We'll release an advisory and we'll put it out there. So if you monitor as you see it, as a professional, an IT professional, you may also want to subscribe to other external feeds as well. That will also help you to keep up to date.
Well, we'll do another batch at this point. I think I see Lawa's question. Are there specific tools or resources you recommend for enhancing cybersecurity awareness and protection? And also, Malcolm says, what role does encryption play in safeguarding sensitive information online? And then this one from Nixon, how can individuals and organizations respond effectively to a cyber incident or breach? I'm sure Nixon is looking for free consultancy at this point. So let's start from Nixon's question. Individuals and organizations responding effectively to a cyber incident or breach.
Okay, all right. So responding to an incident starts from your preparation for it. And that preparation includes some of the stuff we've touched on. So for example, do you have policies around how you manage your software, the versions, your updates? Do you have policies around how users are even onboarded into your organization? So some organizations exist where if we hire you, you just walk in, then we give you a machine. Nobody actually would register you in a system. You came in this date, these are your details, this is the machine you've been assigned, it is properly logged into a system that actually has your credentials, it's left. So if something happens, if let's say my system here is not registered in my name properly, and something infects it, IT people have no way of knowing the source of where the breach is happening.
I think I must commend our IT team here at Multimedia. They do that very sharp. They're sharp.
So those are some of the preparatory steps. You've got your antiviruses in place. You've got such policies running. Now, the other thing you need to top it up is what we call an incident response plan. Now, that plan simply says, okay, if XYZ happens, let's say we have a phishing attack. What are we supposed to do to respond to it? So that document is, okay, well, step 1, do A. Step 2, do this. Step 3, do that. So you sort of need to think through it, but you don't need to create everything new. There are good resources out there. Most of the vendors have it. But the better about it is to customize it to your environment. What happens in Joy FM and news organization may not be the same as a bank or a savings and loans company. So you need to look at it and say, well, my business is savings and loans. This is how my business operates. And therefore, if this incident happens, these are the steps you need to take. You may not have all the same people that will respond, but you need to know who will respond or who will do what at what time. And then you need to then go one more step. You've got a plan for responding. You need to test it. So we do what we call simulations or cyber exercises. So we pretend that 2nd October, when we came to the office, there was an email blast. We have a phishing attack. What do we do? So you sit your team down. Okay, Emefa, what will you do? Okay, I would call the help desk with this and that. Okay, help desk, what will you do? We'll look at it. Okay, it's coming from Emefa. We've got 20 other incidents. We'll call the IT. So you've drilled everybody to understand.
So these alerts.
Yes.
Okay.
That's how
you go about it. Okay, Nixon, you have it there. Encryption, the role encryption plays in safeguarding sensitive information online. Malcolm was asking.
All right, so encryption is a big word for just how you can hide the data from people that are not authorized to see it. So there are various algorithms that do the job, so we'll not go there. But then in terms of, if you classify anything as sensitive, then definitely need to consider encryption. Encryption can be applied in different levels. We can say, you can look at it in terms of data that you are keeping, let's say, just on your hard drive, which is at rest. The data is not moving anywhere. But you need to encrypt it so that if somehow that drive gets in somebody's hands, they can't see or read what it is.
Okay.
You can then look at also in transmission. So let's say you're using a website. You want to send your payment card, your credit card or your debit card information to pay for a service. That data, your PIN, your CVV at the back, It's crucial information. Someone has it, they'll shop in your name. So if you are shopping online, that data must be able to reach your shopping outlet securely for you to do your payment, and you close the transaction. So now you need a means to protect that path, that virtual path. So there's another level of encryption there that you need to be aware of. So it's definitely important for using digital services safely. So encryption is important.
My horizon has really been broadened this evening, but there's one on revenge pornography and the sharing of other explicit materials online. We're told it's become a source of concern for many. Is it on the radar of the Cybersecurity Authority? Lovia wants to know.
Good. In actual fact, it's in the law. Section 66 and 67 speak specifically to exposing someone's intimate images or videos without their consent. And the punishment is quite hefty, I think minimum of 10 years if you're convicted. And we've actually seen some cases. I think the latest one is in June. Someone in the Volta region did that to his girlfriend. He got 10 years for doing that. So it's something we take seriously. The law actually addresses it. So if you happen to experience it, call the CSA immediately. The law is there to back you up.
Well, piracy of other people's intellectual properties like music, movies, football matches on the ascendancy also. Is it a phenomenon that the Cybersecurity Authority is actually paying attention to, and what are the measures to deal with them?
Well, this one is more on the content side. It's not really in our mandate to control content. So if it comes to attention, what we typically is maybe engage a partner agency that is in that space in terms of, let's say, intellectual property protection to handle it. It's not something we would deal with directly, unless maybe it involves, maybe the person may have breached a certain system to actually perpetrate it. In that case, we would build a case around what you've done wrong in breaching that system to support the overall thing, but not the content itself. It's not really our mandate to do so.
Well, do we have a crackdown on romance fraud? Is it still there, really? Maybe some of us that are cake, we may not know, but there's the concern that it's still thriving. We have a hold on it.
Well, we can deal with what is reported to us.
Okay.
So if you tell us, we'll know. But
are we still having people report it?
We get it. We get it from time to time. I think in the past quarter, probably about 3 such reports at least. So it's still out there. But again, it's about being alert to the kind of signals that would indicate that potentially you're
How do you know?
So
how do you know?
Your typical romance fraud will start somebody who, out of the random, pick you up on Facebook and say, "Oh, hi, Emefa, I like your pictures." Give you nice compliments. Come back a few days later, give you more compliments. So basically, gradually, they are warming themselves up to you. Then it becomes a conversation. We are chatting. And eventually, it's okay. Oh, I like you. Can we start dating? So it's going on. Then one day they get up and say, "You know what? I have an emergency. My mom is sick. She's at Kaswa. Can you send her some money to sort her out because I'm outside the country?" And because you've built some emotional attachment.
But there's money transfer from Abriche. Why should I send?
For some reason, his is not working.
Oh, okay.
MFI's new friend, who is kind-hearted, will send it for him. So he sends it. The other thing another feature is typically people never want to meet physically. Maybe even chatting for 6 months, 9 months. So let's meet there. A few minutes to time, you tell you, "I have an emergency. I'm sorry, I can't make it." So you never get to meet the person. There's a photo online, all right.
Yeah.
But you've never physically met the person. The thing is, how sure are you that photo you see there is
it's actually the person?
So you don't know. And if God forbid you make the mistake of giving them intimate pictures, now you've opened a new door. Your sextortion can also be used against you.
Wow. Well, we are wrapping up this. I was hoping it wouldn't end, but we have to wrap it up. So, Awareness Month, everything kickstarts tomorrow. It's a whole month-long, awareness creation. Finally, what really would you want us to take away as we start the Awareness Month, rolling out all the things we need to know from tomorrow?
I think the key point we would like to stress is cybersecurity is not something done by one agency alone. So Cybersecurity Authority will not be able to solve or cannot single-handedly solve all cybersecurity issues. It's a collaborative effort. It's a teamwork. We work with other agents. Then we actually need you, the public, to work with us. So so if you look at the awareness we are giving you, is to equip you to be better than you are now. So work with us to make Ghana a more secure and resilient digital society.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Stephen Seshi. We are grateful, and our doors are always open to the Cybersecurity Authority. 292 is the number that you need to call, and then also 050-160-3111. Anytime you feel that you're under a cybersecurity attack. And there's also on their website, I was going to say myjoyonline.com on their website as well. CSA.gov.gh. You can also send them a message. And Mr. Seshi, thank you. And we wish you all the best. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll be away for some time, and we'll still take care of you here on The Probe. I am Emefa Apawu. There's more when you log on to myjoyonline.com. Radio audience, we have a walk with Jesus. Right here, we'll have Saminiwa bringing us a lot of showbiz news. You'd want to stay for that. Thank you. Have a good evening.